Hi there, I'm Stephen Schwager. I'm the garden manager at the Marin Art and Garden Center. The Marin Art and Garden Center is a beautiful 11-acre non-for-profit public garden located in Ross Valley, California. So here we are in the beginning of November, and it looks like I'm going to the beach. But that's part of the beauty of living in the Bay Area is that we have these nice warm fall months where you can plant vegetables that'll take you through the winter, and plus our, I wouldn't say lack of frost, but our relatively mild winters due to our Mediterranean climate lets us plant a lot of things here and have a very beautiful edible garden all throughout the winter. So guess what? We're going to talk about how to get a beautiful edible garden this winter. So a couple of weeks ago, we prepared the beds and planted our 6-packs and 4-inch vegetable starts. If you'd like to learn more on how to do that, we reviewed that last spring. Go to our website, maringarden.org, and look at the videos, and they'll show you how to prepare your beds and give you some tips as how to best plant your 6-packs as well as your 4-inch starts. So far this fall, we've planted all our brassicas. We've got Caraflex cabbage, which is a nice miniature cabbage, easier to digest, they say. We've also got our cauliflower and broccoli, and we've got some of our mustard greens. We're also growing kohlrabi, and the one thing all of these have in common is the brassicas. They're all in the same family. The other thing they have in common is they prefer our mild winters where it doesn't get too warm, but yet it stays warm enough where they don't freeze. One vegetable you may not know about, but it's one of my favorites, is the cardoon. The cardoon is related to an artichoke, except for instead of eating the flowers like you do on the artichoke, you eat the stems. So imagine you have a stem this long, and this stem tastes just like the best part of an artichoke, which is the heart. So you're getting 10 times as many artichoke hearts from one cardoon plant than you would get from one artichoke plant. So there's another family of vegetables that prefers our mild winters. That is the Allium family. That includes garlic, shallots, and leeks. So the garlic and shallots, guess what? You see them at the grocery store, but you don't want to buy these at the grocery store. They have been treated with chemicals, even the organic ones, to prevent them from sprouting. The best place to buy garlic is either from a reputable dealer online in a catalog, make sure you buy organic, or you can go to the farmer's market and you can get your garlic. Now the garlic comes in two different types. You have the hard necks and the soft necks. Some of the difference between the two are the hard necks, they have a hard neck. That's the green part that dries out. And they don't last quite as long as the soft necks. Now the soft necks are going to be a lot sharper. When you see those braided garlics in the grocery store, those are soft necks, but they are really harsh. Shallots, there's two varieties. I couldn't get the French gray ones, which I actually prefer, but here's the red shallot. Very commonly available, quite delicious, probably my favorite allium because it combines the flavor of the onions, the garlic, and maybe even a little bit of leek. It's really got a depth of flavor that's unsurpassed. So a handy tool when you're planting especially your alliums, is your hand. So rather than have a tape measure, you measure the width of your hand. Mine happens to be exactly 4 inches, and that's as far apart as I want to plant my leeks. So 4 inches apart, and now half of that is 2 inches. 2 inches is right there on my index finger, so that's going to be 2 inches deep. So I go 4 inches, 2 inches, 4 inches, 2 inches, 4 inches, 2 inches. Make sure the top of the garlic is at 2 inches deep. Now we're going to do the shallots. Now the shallots are a little bigger, so I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to 4 inches, 1 index finger, 2 inches deep, pushing the shallot, but just make sure that the top of the shallot is 2 inches below the top of the soil. So the other allium we're going to plant are leeks. Leeks come in 6-packs. They're very densely planted. I usually buy them in 6-packs rather than plant them from seed because sometimes the germination can be a little undependable. This way I know how many plants I have and I can space them and plant them appropriately. So we're going to release the group of leeks from the 6-pack. Shaking them in my hand gently will help loosen the roots. You want to keep the roots as intact as possible. Now we're going to plant them. We're going to plant them 4 inches apart, so I'm going to use my hand. 4 inches, make a hole 2 inches deep. But we don't plant the leek 2 inches deep. What we do is we guide the roots to the bottom of the hole so the roots are going straight down, and then we bring the soil around so the leek is planted only until the white part is covered. So this is the bed where we usually plant some of our more succulent, sweet, delicious greens. We planted them 2 weeks ago. In the past we've had problem with critters coming in and helping themselves, and we hadn't had good crops, so we had this cover built. Unfortunately this year they've still gotten under the cover. So what I'm going to do is replant my greens, but I'm going to be planting bitter greens, and hopefully they won't be as appealing to the little varmints. But problem with bitter greens is they're not very popular. So what I'm going to do is overplant them, plant them very thickly. I'm going to do successive plantings, and we're going to do them as microgreens. So every week for the next 4 weeks, I'm going to be doing a planting of greens. And I'm going to mix the greens and then harvest them. And then next week I'll have another harvest, and the week after that another harvest. And I think people are going to enjoy the microgreens much more than they enjoy the mature bitter greens. So I'm going to create a shallow trench here. I'm going to take the different seed varieties, and I'm going to mix those in my palm and then sprinkle them in. I'm going to repeat that, sprinkle them in, repeat that, sprinkle them in until I'm filled the row. When the row is filled, I'll just gently cover it up, and hopefully this next planting is going to go better than the last. The winter is a really good time to plant cover crops. Cover crops are planted for a few reasons. First of all, some of them break up the soil. You have things like mustard plant and rapeseed that have a very long taproot, and if you've got compacted soil, it's good to plant those. They're not so tasty though. Another cover crop would be, say, some grasses like rye or oats. Now those are really good for providing green manure, and the fine roots spread through the top of the soil and they break it up there. There's a third kind of cover crop, which are legumes. That includes field peas, vetch, and also fava beans. We're going to be planting some fava beans. When I plant the fava beans, I plant them a little closer than necessary. I plant them every 6 inches apart. Now you may think, well, why plant them so close? Well, I'll tell you, if you plant them close, you can wait till spring. When they start blooming, you remove half of them, every other one. The roots will still continue to provide nitrogen in the soil, but the other plants will continue to thrive, and you'll have fava beans to enjoy with your spring stir fries. One thing I forgot to tell you about legumes. Legumes have little nodules on the roots, and these nodules affix nitrogen into the soil. If you let all the fava beans fruit, they're going to take the nitrogen back out of the soil, and that's why you cut half of them back and you let half of them grow so you have something delicious to eat. So here are the fava beans. I soaked them for 2 hours in water. You don't have to do that, but it does help them germinate a little quicker. So normally you might plant them 12 inches apart. I'm going to plant them about 6 inches apart. I'm going to use the palm of my hand plus half of my index finger, and there we go. All you have to do is take your index finger and bam, half of it 2 inches down, and you've planted your first fava bean. Just keep going like that. 6 inches, 2 inches, 6 inches, 2 inches, 6 inches, 2 inches until you've completed the row. One thing to consider when you're doing your winter or summer planting, or any vegetable garden, is how to make it more efficient. And one way to do that is successive plantings. You may have noticed that we have open areas in some of the beds where we haven't mulched. That's where we're going to do successive planting. Now, before I go further and talk about the successive planting, I want to talk a little bit about the mulch. So we put mulch down for 3 reasons. 1, it holds in moisture. 2, it keeps the vegetables clean. I mean, how many times have we picked a vegetable in the winter after it's rained and it's covered with mud? Well, this helps prevent that. And 3, it'll break down and add organic matter into the soil. Now, we use rice straw rather than hay as our mulch. Rice straw grows in the rice paddies, and because it grows in the rice paddies and the rice paddies are flooded, it's not inundated with weeds. Hay, on the other hand, grows in a field, and all the airborne seeds flow into the field. They harvest the hay with the weeds, and guess what? You're just introducing weeds into the vegetable garden. Plus, the rice straw breaks down a lot faster than the hay. A good thing to keep in mind is how fast these vegetables are going to grow. Cauliflower and broccoli take a long time to mature. So I left a little room at the edge of the beds, and there I'm going to plant radishes and turnips, which mature a lot faster. By the time we harvest the radishes and turnips, the broccoli and cauliflower will have taken over, and there'll be no room for anything else in the bed. But guess what? We got our delicious radishes and turnips. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you got some good tips for your fantastic winter vegetable garden. We're open here at the Marin Art and Garden Center 365 days a year, sunrise to sunset, so visit us. And also visit our website, maringarden.org. There's a lot going on here, and there's a lot to see. Thanks very much for watching. I'm Stephen Schwager, the garden manager here, and happy gardening.